Today I'm working on brakes, and I say today, but it's actually been 2 or 3 weeks since I've last posted. I had a frozen rear brake caliper, and I went ahead and rebuilt that one, and the owner decided, quite wisely, to do the front calipers at the same time. The idea being, if the rear caliper is in bad shape, the front ones probably aren't good either. Turned out to be quite correct. What I'm going to show you here, these are the old seals from one of the front calipers, and you can see that whitish crud on there. That is dried up old brake fluid. You can also see this rubber is pretty chewed up in places, a chunk missing out of that one. Anyway, they're not good. And these calipers, although they worked, they would not have lasted long. So it took me quite a while to clean these. I spent about a week just soaking them in the parts washer, and even that didn't do it. This brake fluid, once it dries up, it is very nasty stuff. I wound up having to use a set of dental picks to scrape out the dried up brake fluid inside these things. That took a while, and I had to be very careful. These are steel picks versus aluminum calipers. Aluminum is a much softer metal. So I was very careful, and one of the first things I did was actually took a whetstone and rounded off the points of all of these so that they wouldn't tear up the aluminum. And again, it was just a whole lot of this. It took about 4 hours per caliper to get all the crud out of them. But they're now clean and they're ready to go back together. So I'm going to start assembling them. I have my new seals here, and then my dust boots as well. So I will start with the left-hand one here and get that put together. Now, these rubber seals are not complicated to put in, although they can be a bit of a pain. You have to get them down into the channels, they're grooves inside the caliper. And that one's in, but you can hopefully see that it twisted a bit there, so I have to straighten that out. Usually the best thing to do is just work at it with a pick and convince it to straighten out. You have to be very delicate. I don't want to go poking holes in these seals. I'm just trying to slowly massage it into place, and it just popped into position there. So that one's looking good. I'll do the same thing on the other one. Again, it snapped into place with a bit of a twist, so a little convincing. And that one's in. That's the fourth one I've put in. They get easier each time. So that takes care of the main piston seals. Outside of the piston seals, there are these smaller seals, which are just dust seals. And that's all they do, is just keep dust from getting into the main components. And they're smaller, a little bit lighter, and unfortunately more difficult to get into place. That one's in. And one to go. It should be mentioned that these calipers were never leaking. Despite the bad condition they were in, they didn't spill a drop of brake fluid. What happened with the rear one, and what was going to happen with these front ones, is that eventually they would seize up and drag, so you would be able to apply the brakes and the bike would stop, but the pistons, the calipers, would not release again once you let go of the brakes. The reason why is because these pistons are pushed outward by hydraulic pressure. When you let go of the brakes, the only thing that pulls them back are the actual seals. The rubber seals flex a bit as they are pushed, as the pistons move out. And when the pressure from the hydraulic system is off of the pistons, the rubber can then return to its natural position and pull the pistons back slightly. That's what releases your brakes. There was so much dried up brake fluid in here, though, that this had become a very tight fit on these pistons, and they would not retract simply due to the force of the rubber. One very telling thing about how messed up these were is the amount of air pressure it took to remove these pistons. Normally, it takes about 40 pounds per square inch, 40 psi of pressure applied to the port here to make the pistons shoot out, and not truly shoot out, but just push out to the point where you can grab them with your fingers and remove them. On these calipers, it took 150 psi. What I am doing now is just lubricating the inside of these bores with a little bit of brake fluid. Doing that so that when the new pistons slide into place, they will not tear up my nice new seals. I'm also going to lubricate the pistons the same way. And there goes number one into place. A little wiggling. It's past the dust seal. It hasn't gone past the main pressure seal yet. And that can be a little sticky. There we go. That's got it. Second piston, same way. This one's being a little tricky. With a project like this, anytime it does not want to do what you expect it to do, don't force it. Just stop and see if there are any problems. Last thing you want to do is break something like this, especially since these parts cannot be purchased anymore. Okay, again, I'm past the dust seal. I haven't gotten to the main pressure seal yet. I'm trying to work past that right now. And there it goes. Just a little wiggling did the trick. Alright, so that's the main body of it together. Both calipers now have their pistons and new seals